Stop! It's a trap!
Get lost, kid.
The bridge, they cut it last night!
You're crazy. Move.
Please, I watched them do it. 3 men with an angle grounder. You cross that bridge, none of you come back.
The biker shoved past her. 15 engines roared to life.
Hope Gardner dropped to her knees in the middle of the parking lot. Barefoot, homeless, 19 years old. She had nothing. No phone, no family, no voice that mattered. She'd run 2 miles at dawn on an empty stomach to save 15 strangers, and not one of them believed her. She whispered to herself, the way her grandmother taught her to pray. At the back of the pack, one man's eyes narrowed. He looked at her, really looked. Then, he killed his engine. What happened after that? This town has never been the same. Unbelievable. To understand why she was out there barefoot, begging strangers, we got to go back to the beginning. 14 months ago, Hope Gardner had a home. It wasn't much, a narrow clapboard house on Birch Lane with a leaking roof and a porch swing that squeaked every time the wind blew. But it smelled like cinnamon and lavender, because that's what Eleanor Gardner's kitchen always smelled like. Eleanor was Hope's grandmother, the only family she had left. Her mother vanished when Hope was 3, just walked out one morning and never came back. Her father was a name on a birth certificate she'd never seen. Eleanor raised her on Social Security checks and a stubborn belief that kindness was the only currency that never lost its value. "You read that book twice already," Eleanor would say, watching Hope curl up on the couch with a dog-eared copy of something borrowed from the county library. "Third time," Hope would answer. "It gets better every time." Eleanor laughed at that, every single time. Then came the cough, the one that didn't stop. The doctor in the next town said pneumonia, said Eleanor needed to stay in the hospital. Eleanor said she couldn't afford it. The doctor said she couldn't afford not to. She died on a Tuesday morning in November. Hope was holding her hand. The heart monitor flattened into a single tone, and the nurse had to pry Hope's fingers loose because she wouldn't let go. The bank took the house 60 days later. Unpaid mortgage. Eleanor had been behind for years, stretching every dollar so thin it was practically transparent. Hope stood on the sidewalk and watched a man in a gray suit change the locks. He didn't look at her once. She tried the shelter in Colton, 20 miles south. Full. She tried the church on 5th Street. Pastor Lewis said he'd pray for her. Prayers don't keep the rain off your back. So Hope found the bridge. The Millbrook Bridge was old, built in the 1960s, barely used since the highway bypass went in. Underneath, the concrete embankment formed a shallow alcove, just wide enough for a sleeping bag and a milk crate full of books. Hope dragged a sheet of corrugated tin over the opening to block the wind. It wasn't a home, but it was hers. Grayville had about 4,000 people. Most of them knew Hope existed. None of them did anything about it. The woman who ran the grocery store on Main Street, Mrs. Calloway, once chased Hope out with a broom when she came inside to warm up during a rainstorm. "You're scaring my customers," she said. Hope was standing by the canned soup aisle, dripping water on the floor and shivering. Officer Braddock, the police chief, told her twice that if she didn't stop loitering near the businesses, he'd have her arrested for vagrancy. He said it the way you'd talk to a stray dog you were tired of seeing. The only person in Grayville who treated Hope like a human being was Earl Weston. He was 71 years old, ran a one-man auto repair shop at the edge of town, and had hands like leather gloves. Every few days, Earl would leave a brown paper bag on the railing of the Millbrook Bridge, a ham sandwich, an apple, sometimes a bottle of water. He never made a big deal about it, never asked for a thank you. He'd just nod if he saw her and keep walking. Once, he left a flashlight with a note taped to it. "For your books." Hope kept that flashlight under her pillow every night. It was the most valuable thing she owned. She was 19 years old, sleeping under a bridge in a town that wished she'd disappear. And tonight, she'd witnessed 3 men try to engineer a mass murder. The question was simple. Who do you tell when nobody listens to you? They came in like thunder. 15 Harley-Davidsons rolling down Route 9 in a tight V formation. Chrome catching the morning sun, exhaust pipes rumbling low enough to rattle the windows of every shop on Main Street. The sound reached Grayville before the riders did. A deep, rolling growl that made people stop on the sidewalk and stare. The Iron Oath Brotherhood. 15 men, all veterans. They'd served in different wars, different branches, different decades. But they rode together every summer. A 3-week trip across the South, visiting memorials, laying wreaths, pouring whiskey on headstones of friends who didn't make it home. This year's route ran from Savannah to Memphis, and Grayville was nothing more than a fuel stop and a bathroom break. Hank Sullivan rode at the front. 52 years old, former Marine, 2 tours in Afghanistan. He had a silver beard trimmed close, deep lines around his eyes, and a voice that didn't need volume to carry authority. His leather vest was covered in patches, unit insignias, memorial pins, a small American flag stitched over his heart. Behind him rode Craig Dawson, the loudest of the group. Ex-Army, built like a refrigerator, with a handlebar mustache and an opinion about everything. Craig was the kind of man who filled silence the way water fills a crack, aggressively and without invitation. Then there was Sam Porter. Quiet. Thin. Former Navy engineer who'd spent 20 years building things the government wouldn't talk about. He wore wire-rimmed glasses and carried a pocket notebook everywhere. The other riders called him the Professor. Sam noticed things other people missed. Behind Sam rode Danny Wells, 26, the youngest in the group. Former combat medic, 2 Purple Hearts, a laugh that came easy and a temper that didn't. Danny carried a first aid kit on his bike the way other riders carried beer. Next to him was Vic Holloway, a retired drill sergeant who hadn't raised his voice in 11 years and didn't plan to start. Vic communicated mostly through nods and silence, and both were more effective than most people's speeches. The rest of the pack filled in behind. Men with road-worn faces and steady hands. A welder from Tallahassee. A high school teacher from Mobile. A retired firefighter who still flinched at the sound of sirens. Each one carried a story he didn't talk about and a loyalty he never had to explain. They weren't a gang. They were a family built from wreckage. Grayville didn't see it that way. When the 15 bikes pulled into Conley's gas station, Mrs. Calloway locked the front door of her grocery store. Pastor Lewis watched from his office window with his arms crossed. 2 mothers pulled their children closer on the sidewalk, as if leather jackets were contagious. "Lovely welcome," Craig muttered, swinging off his bike and stretching his back. "We're not here for the welcome," Hank said. He pulled a folded map from his saddlebag and spread it across the seat of his Harley. His finger traced a line south of town. "Millbrook Bridge. We crossed there, cut through the valley, save 2 hours before Memphis." "Bridge any good?" Sam asked, leaning in. "County map says it's open. Should be fine." Across the street, standing in the shadow of a boarded-up laundromat, Hope Gardner watched. She'd been following the sound of the engines since they entered town, and now she stood frozen, her pulse climbing. 15 bikes. Route 9. The bridge. This was them. The men Wade Thornton wanted dead. She looked at their faces, weathered, laughing, alive. Craig was making a joke about gas station coffee. A younger rider was showing photos on his phone to the man next to him. Hank was studying his map with the calm focus of someone who'd navigated far worse terrain than a Georgia back road. They had no idea. Hope's hands clenched at her sides. Her mouth went dry. Every instinct told her to run, not away, but toward them. To scream, to grab the map and tear it up, to do something, anything, before those 15 motorcycles rolled onto a bridge that couldn't hold a bicycle. But another voice, the voice of Grayville, the voice of every person who'd ever looked through her like glass, whispered something else.